Check, 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 check. Hey everybody, John Dathauer. Hopefully you're having a great day, awesome day. We're on the side of dirt, so we're all good. I told you last video I was going to try to show you what we're actually going to do with this wire and this connector that we put on the RG6 cable for TV or satellite. So I apologize if it's dark. I think we got it worked out. I got somebody running the camera for me, so hopefully that'll work as well. But just wanted to kind of let you know what we're doing with this. So last video showed you how to actually crimp this connector onto this actual cable that I'm holding right now. So this is what I put the connector end on. And remember, once again, this is an RG6 cable for cable, satellite TV, DirecTV, Comcast, anything like that. You can also remember use this cable to hook your TV to your actual cable box, all sorts of things. So, but today the intent for us is I have DirecTV. So this is currently what we have to DirecTV. Well, we're getting Comcast. So the problem is the Comcast is going to come in on the opposite side of the house of where this DirecTV comes in. So I either have to pay somebody to come in, run this new line for me, hook it up, or I can do it myself. And like I said, you guys can do this yourself and save money, and you can do exactly what you want with it. So that's what we're going to go over. Excuse me. So anyway, this is the actual cable. So I've hung it on this wall, and in our intention, this is going to be the supply line from Comcast. So Comcast is actually going to hook to the other end of our wire. This is going to go to a splitter. So this will be the main line that'll come into this splitter now instead of DirecTV. And then all these cables off of this splitter, as you can see here, go to all our TVs. So it's going to be literally as simple as that, is when they hook up the Comcast, they're going to unhook this main line from the DirecTV and hook our new line with our new connector on it into the splitter to give the whole house service. Okay, so that's what we're working with. So we're going to kind of pan over and we're going to show you how we ran this line. So biggest thing you want to make sure is we have an unfinished basement right now. We'll finish it later. But that's why we're doing this right now. And you're just going to run across your floor joists. And if you have another bulk of wires like we do here, you're just going to follow those wires. And you can see that we just literally zip tied them to the other wires we have. And then as we get to the point where we need to go somewhere different with the wire, we use low voltage staples with plastic. So your low volt staples with plastic, I'll show you here in a second, but this is where our line runs. Okay, so we started down there, we ran up to the floor joist, ran it over, and we ran with all of our lines. So when this gets finished, we're not putting that wire in a place where you're going to have to cut it or replace it because you're putting your framing in. Okay, so we want to keep it as simple as we can, run it with the other lines so we're not making a mess, we're not putting it somewhere where we shouldn't. And as you can see, it just kind of runs here and then runs down the wall. Now, like I was saying, when you have to hook it to something that's not already there, at Home Depot, love Home Depot, you know that, they make these low voltage pieces that actually is a staple, and it has a plastic piece with the staple, so it protects the cable. Now, when you're knocking these staples in, you don't want to knock them in so tight to where you're squishing the cable. That's a bad thing. You want to have it so you have a little bit of wiggle room with that cable. See how that cable moves in those staples? You want it to be able to move a little bit, not squish it. You want to secure it, but not squish it. That's really important, so you're not messing with anything inside that cable, the shielding or anything. Okay, so you can run it wherever you need to run it, but this is where I needed to run it, to this exterior wall. And in this situation, what we have is, it's called bibs, blown in insulation that goes inside the wall. So your situation may be just a bat insulation, but regardless, we have to go through our insulation, okay? So we take the cable, run it through the wall. It's pretty easy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna grab a tool and I'm gonna show you exactly how we did that. And then we're going to go to the outside and show you how it comes through the house, what you have to go through to get through the house, and then what you do on the other side to get ready for either somebody else to connect to it or for you to connect to it or whatever you have to do, okay? So basically, really all you're gonna need, you can even use a hand tool, but obviously power driver. So this is just a big long spade bit. It's 1/2 inch, okay? You don't wanna make the hole too big, but you don't wanna make it too small. You wanna be able to get it through the wall. So you're gonna use, if you're gonna go with the RG cable, 1/2 inch spade bit, long drill bit, okay? So how I got this hole is I went on the outside of the house and I figured out where I wanted this wire to come through the wall at. So you just don't come down here and just poke a hole in your wall. Before you poke that hole and before you put this cable in its final location, you want to go on the outside of the house. You want to make sure where it's at. Okay, this is where it's at. We're not going through concrete. We're not going through brick. We're not going through stone. We're going through siding. So it's going to be easy to go through everything. Okay, so when you figure that out, the best way to do it is you take this tool and you go up there and you take this tool and you don't really run it in this kind of insulation or anything else. You poke it through and you just poke it through and you just keep pushing it until you feel something solid, okay? Now, an easy way to do that is most walls, if it's unfinished, is gonna either be a 2x4 wall or 2x6 wall thick. So 2x4 wall, you could measure from this tip and put a piece of tape at 1.5 inches for a 2x4 wall. So when you push this in, you'll know that you've gone as far as you can in that wall, okay? Now, these studs are vertical and they're width in. So the 1.5 inches, sometimes they'll turn the studs on side if there's something in the wall, but most of the time this is how you're gonna see the studs lay out. So in this particular situation, 2x4, so we're gonna go 3.5 inches deep in this wall. So you take your tape, measure 3.5 inches, put a piece of tape there, okay? You'd push it in the wall. When it stops, if you're right up against the stud, you know you've gone far enough. In this situation, we have a 2x6 wall. So the 2x6, so we're gonna go 5.5. So we're gonna measure 5.5 inches down, put a piece of tape, okay? So it's roughly gonna be about there. So when I put this through the insulation and I hit that wall, then I know I've gone far enough because that tape that I put on my bit is going to be roughly the same depth as this wall to that siding. So that's just a real easy, quick, dirty way to know that you've gone deep enough and then you're ready to start drilling. So once you get there and you get to where you want, I can't stress this enough, make sure you double check and triple check where you're going to put this hole in your wall. Because once you put it there, it's there until you fix it or cover it. And we don't want to do that if we don't have to. So make sure you check where you want it. And if you have any issues at all or any questions, get a tape measure out. Measure over, measure up. Just make sure, okay, we're not in anywhere, we're where we want to be, we're not hitting any studs, we're not hitting any concrete, we're exactly where we want to be. So when you do that, you get in there, you push it against, and the way this bit works is it has this little kind of screw on the end, okay? So as you start to go, that screw is going to start to bite into your siding material first, and then your spade's actually going to hit it. So what you're going to find is when you go through there, it might get a little bit hard. So what you might have to do is reverse your drill, pull it out a little bit, go forward again, do that a couple times, because doing that nice and slow and easy, when you poke through whatever's on the outside of the house, it'll make a nice cleaner hole. If you just put this up against the siding or whatever it is, and you just hammer it and you just poke through the house real quick, you're gonna splinter the outside of it really bad, and it's gonna look bad. You need to fix it. You don't want to do any of that. So just go real slow, in and out, and then you'll feel it start to break through, and then just go nice and slow. And then once you've broke through, then you can kind of speed it up a little bit, run it back and forth to clean it up, okay? So once you do that, and once you're done, all you have to do is take your hand and you'll just move this insulation out of your way, or if it's a piece of bat insulation, you'll just pull it down. But all you're gonna do is you're gonna move that insulation out of your way, take your wire, and you're gonna poke it through the wall, okay? And then from this side of the wall, unless you have a helper on the outside, on this side of the wall, you're just gonna push that wire through until you have it right where you want it, and then stop. Now, the other thing with this, on the first video that I told you, is you always want too much extra line, then get all the way over here and get to this point and find out your wire's too short. Because if your wire's too short, you have to start all over, because you don't want any more connections in this wire that you have to. Each connection reduces your chances of having interference, all kinds of stuff going on with these cables, okay? So if it's too short, you have to remake a new end on a new piece of cable and run that cable again. So remember, we always want one piece of cable, make it way longer than it needs to be, and then on the outside, we can cut some off if we need to, okay? So we've gone over all that, and then we're gonna go outside and kind of show you the outside of it. So here's our cable on the outside of our house. Now each house is gonna have different material. Most of the time, you know, depending on where you're at, typically it's wood siding, sometimes it's concrete siding, you may have stucco, you may have brick. So if that's the case, and you do have stucco, or you have brick, or you have something like that, then that spade bit that I was showing you, you may have to change that spade bit out for a bit that will actually go through the material that you're going through. So if it's stucco, brick, stone, anything like that, you'd want to use a bit that is actually made for concrete or stucco. Anything else, you can use just that spade bit I was using, which is for any wood material, okay? So that would be your only other thing you'd want to make sure that you're looking at before you drill through it. But I'd say on the side of a house or back of a house, for the most part, you're going to have some type of, you know, wood material. But if not, just use the other bit. Everything else is exactly the same. So we ran our cable through, and as you can tell, I cut off, but I left a ton of wire, okay? I probably left close to probably 8 to 9 feet of wire here. So the reason why we do this is when the cable company comes in, they're gonna put a box. So this wire is gonna go into their box. So this wire goes through their box, and their box covers my wire. Then their wire comes through the ground, comes up the wall, and then they'll hook my wire into their wire. But I don't know how much they're gonna need. My guess is they're probably only gonna need maybe 2 foot of this. But worst case scenario, they might show up and say, you know, I can't put the box exactly right here. I have to put it here, or I have to put it here. Most of the time, they'll be able to put it right over it. But if not, we have to have enough wire to accommodate that, because once again, the most important thing is we have one wire, a connector on each end, and that's it. No splitters in between. So that's why we leave this much wire. Now, once they get here, they'll know how much to cut off, and they'll take care of all that, and you don't have to worry about that. Just make sure you leave them enough. Now, simply all you have to do on the outside of your house is, once you ran that wire, obviously make sure it's dry outside for, you know, at least 24 hours. But I just take a really good caulk and go around this wire, push it in the hole a little bit, smooth it out, just so we're sealing this wire to the house, into the house. So you're not letting water in, you're not letting bugs in, that sort of thing. So when they put their box over it, their box will seal it, but we're also sealing it the correct way. So we don't have to put an end on this cable. Now, if you're finishing some sort of box out here, or you're putting your own satellite up, or you're putting an amplifier up, or anything like that, remember that first video, that I showed you shows you how to cut the wire, how to put the connector on, how to crimp the connector on, shows you everything that you need to know anytime you have to put an end on or run wire. So when you're doing this, like I said, this is for the supply for my new cable. But anything you're doing on your own, if you just want to run from your wall to your TV, you can use this and those connector ends. If you're running new cable in the basement just to clean it up, same thing. Variety of things you can use this for, and you can do it yourself. Once I've showed you this, all you have to know is how to put the ends on and how to run that wire and how to be safe when you put those staples on it. Make sure it has plastic, give it a little room to move, and you're in good shape. So hope that helps. Remember, watch part 1 if you need to see the ends go on. This is part 2. As always, I appreciate you watching. Please subscribe, leave comments. Any questions, I'll try to answer them. If you need any help, I'll try to answer it. If you have a different question on something else, then maybe we can go over that. But other than that, have a great day. Run the side of dirt. Thank you very much.